Greetings, Green Thumb Gardening family. Alain Unleashed back at you from right here at the Green Thumb Gardening channel, right here in the Grow Zone 8B in Tipton, Georgia. In this evening's video, we're bringing you this video from inside of our high tunnel greenhouse, and we have a confession. That's right, Green Thumb Gardening channel. We have a confession for all of you guys and gals out there currently subscribed to our channel, currently watching this video, maybe new to our channel, maybe thinking about subscribing to our channel. We have a confession. We've been holding out on you guys. We've been holding out on you guys and gals out there who currently support our channel. We've been holding out quite a few things on you guys. And we've been holding out these things on you guys because we've had so much going on here at the Green Thumb Gardening channel with the fall and winter approaching here, and our nursery out front, and our other channels, South Georgia Figs and the More You Grow Container Gardening. So we've simply just not had the time to actually bring you guys in and bring you guys along for everything that I'm about to show you guys right now. Most of what I'm about to show you guys and gals out there right now has been going on here for at least a week. Some of it has been going on here probably 30 days here, or 30 to 45 days here. At any rate, I'm going to swing this camera around for you guys and show you guys what we got having going on. Now, we've been holding out on you guys and gals is several propagation experiments that we've been conducting here, along with several more that we're not even going to show you guys in this video, because we have so many different propagation experiments going on here during the fall and winter months here, which is the time of the year where we actually propagate most of the cuttings and typically grow seeds and germinate seeds, etc., etc., etc. And as I swing this camera around for you guys, I'm going to introduce you guys and gals out there to the very first propagation experiment that we have going on. Now, this particular propagation experiment has been going on here in our high tunnel greenhouse for approximately 21 days now. If I'm not mistaken, it's been exactly to the date 21 days since we begun this propagation experiment. We begun this propagation experiment for the purpose of adding some new varieties of flowers and plants, etc., 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 to our nursery out front, Green Thumb Nurseries, this coming spring. And I'm going to lower this camera down for you guys and show you what we have going on. Now, you guys can see in the background we have some Boston ferns back there. We have several large ones. We have several tiny ones down there at the bottom down there. This first propagation experiment is another variety of ferns. We think they're far more beautiful than these Boston ferns back here in the background that we adore so much, but what do you guys think? Bam! Now, a lot of you guys and gals out there may be familiar with this variety of fern. For those of you out there who are not familiar with what this variety of fern is, these are beach ferns. You see how the leaf pattern is on this fern as opposed to the leaf pattern on that fern over there. Now, again, we adore our Boston fern. We love those ferns over there. But we think that this beach fern is a far more elegant variety of fern here. So here about 3 weeks ago, we took the liberty of digging up several tiny, small pieces of this fern here that looks something like this little tiny thing there. If you guys can see that little, see if I can find a better one to show you guys what we have going on here. But they were so tiny and oh, here's one here. See if you guys can see that right there in that very top. Can you see that little curly thing there? Those little curly things there's what we actually propagated all of these ferns from here that you see in this. I think we have about 16, let's see, 3, 6, 9. We have 12 of these beach ferns here. And you can see we have them in this flat, this shallow bin here. What we simply do is come out here and add a little water to this bin, and the water wicks up to the roots of the plants from the bottom of this container down here. This is about 3 weeks of growth. So imagine how large these ferns will be here within the next 30 to 45 days here. Again, adding beach ferns to our nursery in the spring. Next up, Green Thumb Gardening Channel. Another confession. Most of you guys and gals out there are already familiar with the knockout rose plants that we're growing. We grew these from cuttings about a month or so ago. There's about 9 of them back there. About 11 of them back there, and we have some. Actually, we've been propagating so many roses here; it's just ridiculous. We didn't bring you guys along for this either, but we have a couple of purple climbing roses here. That one in that first little black container there, and this other one on this side. The rest of the roses you see back there are red roses that we had growing on in our nursery. We took the liberty of pruning our rose bushes out there back, and we rooted all of those 9 rose bushes you see back there in the back from cuttings from our red rose bushes we had in our front yard nursery. At any rate, I lowered this camera down. You see, guys can see we have about 20 rose cuttings in this shallow glass of water here. You guys can see where that water level is. You know, we propagate anything in the water, we use a tiny amount of water. We've been doing that. It's been successful for us so far here at the Green Thumb Gardening Channel. We kind of tend to stick with what works best for us here in our particular grow zone. Now, this grow experiment has been going on for approximately 14 days. These are white rose cuttings in this container, and there was absolutely no foliage whatsoever on any of these cuttings 14 days ago when we first placed them in this glass of water. And the only thing we did that we normally don't do when we are propagating cuttings is we actually added some rooting hormone to the water. You guys know we use that Garden Safe rooting hormone. We took a little bit of that powder. We stirred it well into the mixed it well with the water in the bottom of this glass, and we stuck these rose cuttings down in there, and they just took off. Now at this point, we don't have any visible roots. We have little bumps that roots form for on all of these cuttings down here, but we don't have any visible roots on these cuttings, although we have a dramatic amount of foliage up here. Now, this foliage is pretty and it's nice and lovely to see these some healthy, vibrant cuttings, but we want to see some roots growing on down there. If you know anything about rooting our roses, you know it takes 30, 45 days, maybe even more in water. So we're hoping that we don't get too much growth up top before we start to get some significantly forming roots down in the bottom of this glass down here, because if we do, it's going to be an issue. In this back cup back here, we have another cup of rose cuttings. This experiment is about 4 days in right now. We have some more of those same white rose cuttings there that we received from one of our subscribers in the same cup. And we have a few marked with that little white and blue tag down there. Those are a few red flag roses from that same subscriber. About 4 days in, as you guys can see, they're already beginning to bud out. Now, we didn't add any rooting hormone to this particular cup, and we're going to see how they do without any rooting hormone whatsoever. As you can see, a few of these cuttings in this glass are beginning to turn a little brown. Some of them beginning to die off at the top. If that die off continues, we'll simply remove those cuttings from this cup. We won't have any rotting cuttings in our cup to provide any disease or anything to the water, while our healthy cuttings are attempting to root for us here. But again, about 4 days in. Next up, we have some white hydrangeas that we are growing from cuttings. We took these cuttings every bit of 30 days ago. We rooted these cuttings in water. There was absolutely no foliage on these little sticks that you see sticking up down here at the bottom when we during the rooting process. And as you guys can see, once they fully rooted, we simply planted each one of our hydrangea cuttings. We have a total of about 10 or 15 of these things. We didn't place all of them down here on the floor for this video because it would just been too crowded down here. We're just showing you guys 2 of our hydrangea cuttings. Again, these are the white hydrangea cuttings. About 30 days in, and what you see here is all new growth. Again, there was no foliage whatsoever on these little sticks here, and our white hydrangeas are looking fantastic at about day 30 here in our high-toner greenhouse. Next up, we conducted a propagation experiment here about 45 days ago, I think maybe even 50 days, just to see if we could actually get it to work here. It's our first time attempting to root this type of these type of plants, and we were pretty successful with it. Again, we lost several cuttings, but once we got the formula down right, we kind of figured out how to go about rooting these cuttings. What we have in this first container is a Chinese privet. This is actually a hedge type, something similar to a boxwood, something like that right there. This is what you'll see people planting around their house, you know, as a border around their house, beneath their windows, etc., etc., etc. This is called a Chinese privet. About 45 days in, there was only, again, that stick you see down there at the beginning of this grow experiment, and as you can see, it is fully vegetated out. Beginning to have some branch extension here. Up in the top, it's just full up in there. You can see where we took the cutting from here. Again, about 45, maybe 50 days ago. Chinese privet. Now, another confession. We took the cutting from this particular hedge here on the same day that we took the cuttings from for those hedges over there. We have about 6 or 7 of those, and about the same amount of these over here. This particular hedge here, we forgot the name of this cutting when we took it from one of our subscribers' houses in their yard. They invited us over to take some cuttings. If anyone currently watching this video can tell us the name of this particular hedge here, we would be most grateful to you. Again, greenhouse confessions. About 45, 50 days in, same as this Chinese privet back here in the back. Next up. In this container, we are growing winged air potatoes. This is a vine type plant, a rapidly growing plant once established. There's several ways you can grow these things. You can grow it from a cutting. You can grow it from the actual edible potatoes that it produces, either beneath the soil or along the vines themselves. This thing grows 3, 4, 5, 6 inches a day. Once it's established, we grow it here in this 1 gallon container in our high total greenhouse. Now, this particular grow experiment has been going on for us here about, don't want to lie to you guys, at least 40 days here. And we planted a little tiny winged air potato piece that was about this big down there in this soil. And at first, this first vine came up, and it just really wasn't growing that vigorously at all. So we repotted it into a more sandy, well-draining mixture of sand, potting soil, and peat moss, and the thing just took off. I mean, the leaves before were washed out, a washed-out green color. As you guys can see, we're not giving it anything besides rainwater, and it's a pretty deep green. And look at this new shoot that's coming out. We're gonna have to get out here and stake this thing up probably tomorrow or the following day, because it's going to grow at a geometric rate, and I'm not sure what we're going to do with this thing between now and spring, because again, once established, these things grow 3 to 4 or 5 inches per day. Winged air potatoes, edible. Another one of those things that we want to add to our nursery and to our backyard food forest in the spring as another food source here for us. Last but not least, we have a total of 4 red raspberry cuttings in this container. And we started this grow experiment about 30 days ago. We started out with a total of 6 red raspberry cuttings in these 4 little cups that I have down here. We lost a total of 2 of those cuttings, and we have 4 left that are just now beginning to pop out some new foliage, which means that they're definitely rooted, because raspberry cuttings would not pop out any foliage whatsoever until they have some roots on them. So as I lower this camera down for you guys, bam, our red raspberry plants. Well, these are the ever-bearing red raspberry plants, and you guys saw the videos from this year. We harvested so many red raspberries from our garden backyard food forest here at Berry Boulevard. And in fact, we have 3 or 4 plants still left out there, and they still have raspberries on them. These things just would refuse to quit bearing the raspberries, but we've got some 30-degree weather coming up in a couple of days that's going to put those things into dormancy. So we got out there at the time that we did and took some cutting from those plants, and had the opportunity to actually propagate some of those cuttings. have those cuttings root for us and begin to grow here for us in our hydroponic greenhouse. Now, one last confession. We did dig up an entire plant from Berry Boulevard during the prior to the very first unexpected cold snap of October, and we potted that thing up. We removed most of the foliage from that plant, and it really didn't do well for the first 2 weeks or so, maybe 3 weeks even. It didn't do well. All of the remaining foliage dried up and fell off, and we had it here in our greenhouse. We thought it might have been a little too warm in our greenhouse, so we took that potted red raspberry plant. We set it outside next to our high tunnel greenhouse, and this green thumb gardening family is what happened. Take you guys back here. You guys can see we have a ton of things squeezed into our high tunnel greenhouse. But nevertheless, I'm going to get you guys back into this corner and show you exactly what is going on with that one ever-bearing red raspberry plant that we dug up and potted about a month ago here at the Green Thumb Gardening Channel. Bam! Can you guys see all of that luscious foliage now being produced by our ever-bearing raspberry plant here in our high tunnel greenhouse? Isn't she lovely? At any rate, Green Thumb Gardening family, the very first edition of Greenhouse Confessions here in our high tunnel greenhouse. Thanks for watching. We're sorry we had so many things on you guys, but we just simply didn't have a chance to bring you guys along for everything during the propagation experiments here and everything else that we had going on. But we'll do our best to keep you guys updated in the future on exactly what it is that we have growing on with our red raspberry plants, our winged apple potatoes, our Chinese privet, this one hedge that I'm hoping you guys will give me the name for, our hydrangeas, our white roses, and our other white roses and red roses, and our beach ferns here in our high tunnel greenhouse. Thanks for watching.